Hey friends, welcome back to Stronger Every Day. So today we're going to talk about John 12:27. This is Jesus talking, and I wanted to read this verse to you just to let you know. I think some people think, well, God doesn't understand. He doesn't comprehend what I'm going through. This Bible teaches otherwise. So John, it's 12:27. Now my soul is deeply troubled. Should I pray, Father, save me from this hour? But this is the very reason I came. Father, bring glory to your name. So when we think about being low, obviously this was a moment where Jesus was low. He wanted things to be different. He wanted this to not happen. Yet your will be done, God. That's hard to pray sometimes, right? I'll talk about a situation in my life with one of my relatives. And they have cancer, and they've had it for 6 years, and it's incurable. And my prayer is always God's will, right? It's always, God, your will be done. What I want to happen is obviously God's will, but deep down in me, I want them to be healed. I want this to go away. I want this to, no more chemo, no more medicine, no more tests and trials, and no more rearranging medicine because one's making them sick, or one's not doing what it should, or one's having horrible side effects, and just the moving forward through that. Things don't always happen, yet God's will be done. Why is this happening to somebody I love? I don't know the answer to that. Sometimes God doesn't reveal why things happen. Why did my mother die at age 59 from breast, brain, and liver cancer? And she fought that for 5 years. I don't know the answer to that. Why do tragedies happen? There's some things we're not ever going to know the answer to. God understands where you are. He understands the low times. He understands the depression, the anxiety, especially in this world today. Yes, the Bible it's in a different time, but it's still as relative today as it was back then. And thinking about all the things the Lord went through, and all the beautiful grace and compassion he gave going through it. He knew what was going to happen to him. He knew why he was here on this earth, and he knew that he was going to have to go through torture and torment. People talked about him. They tried to sabotage him. They actively sought to persecute him and to kill him, and eventually did. There was many different disciples throughout the Bible that died as a result of being killed, as a result of preaching and teaching God's word. Sorry, the air quality here is not the greatest right now, but God understands, right? There's not any place or any emotion or any level or any spot that you can go to that, number one, he can't find you, and number two, he doesn't understand where you are. It doesn't, there's no, we try to reason so much out. Well, he'll never understand, because the Lord already knew you were going to do this. He understands what you're doing. He understands where you're at, and it's his hope that you will look to him to bring you out of it. If you're not a Christian, that you will look to him, fall in love with him, and follow him, and start bringing others to Christ and walking in God's love. There's no better place to be than walking in God's love. There's so many different times in the Bible, you know, Jesus wept tears of blood. He wept tears of blood. He had to be in some definite anguish there. There were times where he talked about, just like this, that, you know, please take this from me, but nonetheless your will be done. knowing all this was going to happen, and still his level of love and compassion, even dying on the cross, he asked God, forgive them, they know not what they've done. I'm not even like a point with 1,000 zeros and a 1 close to that level of just love and compassion for people that persecute me, right? We talk about in the Bible that what is it to love people that love you? You know, even sinners do that, but it's loving those who don't. And I struggle with that. I am making a small headway there, but I struggle with that. There's a part of me that says, you know, well, you're being fake if you act a certain way around them. But then there's the other part of me that says, no, you're being a Christian. You're being an adult, right? It's not two-faced to not throw a fit and cause drama every time you see someone who hasn't been the best to you or has actively attacked you. Loving people that love you is easier. Sometimes I wouldn't say it's easy, but loving people that love you is much easier than loving people that hate you and that attack you and persecute you. Yet Jesus is the perfect example all through this Bible of doing that. And he loves you, he loves me, he loves us. He had thoughts in his mind that of everything that was coming, everything that was happening, and that he was dealing with I'm very careful to use the word depression here, but obviously low times. He was dealing with low times in his life, and you know what? God still loved him, right? That was still his kid. He still loved him, and that's how he feels about us. Even though we have low times and we're struggling with mental illness, God loves us, folks. Even when other Christians maybe say things to you about your, you know, the reason they think that you have depression and anxiety, PTSD, schizophrenia, there's a plethora of mental illnesses, but you have to be deep in this word to understand when people are saying things that are out of God's will, that are not in this book, that are purely opinion. And understand this, and I've said this before, how many different religions do we have now? Because man can't agree, right? This book causes a lot of people to have a lot of different, you know, well, God spoke to me and said this. Well, God spoke to me and said this. Well, my personal opinion is this. You know, a lot of it's just pride. You know, that's why we have so many different denominations and so many different sub-denominations of all of that. That's why we can't agree on, you know, technology. We can't agree on medicine. We can't agree on dress code. We can't agree on drinking versus not drinking, tattoos versus not tattoos. Some of the core beliefs are the same in here, but that's why we have so many denominations, because man can't agree. So that's man's opinion over the years that have created all these different denominations of what they believe this book says. Dive deep into this book and you understand the words, you understand what's happening. That way, when things that are out of God's word come at you, you recognize them automatically and you can just brush them off and go on. So important when you struggle with mental illness is to be able to recognize falsehoods, be able to recognize Pharisees, and be able to shut down that opinion of what they're saying to you quickly. I've recently decided that I'm installing boundaries in my life with people and what access they have to me. So there's people in my life that when I'm around them, it's purely negative. It's constantly talking about others. It's the conversation that when I'm around them, I feel bad, I feel negative, I feel stressed. I hear what they say, and then it's in my brain, it affects my day and my home, and I've decided no more. I still love them, I still pray for them, I will still be there for them if they need me to be there for them. And I will not talk about them or that situation anymore. But you don't have the same access as, say, my husband, right? Or my dad, or you know, my mom and dad, Nick's mom and dad. You don't have that same level of access. There's other people in that level, but, you know, say if that's, you know, you're down here on the access. Like, I can't, there's a spot here, and Lisa Turkhurst talks a lot about boundaries, and she was talking about, you know, if I'm giving you level 10 access, but you're only bringing level 3, then I can't make you change, but I can change your access to me. So I'm going to bring it down to not your attitude and not your heart. You're not coming down to their level, but you're putting the access they have to you on their level, right? So, you know, maybe when they call and you know it's going to be pure gossip, you don't answer the phone. Maybe when you know, functions that you're both going to be attending, either you attend and you rotate around the room where you're not rotating with them, or you limit those interactions. And so that's something that is hard for both Nick and I. We enjoy being with friends and family, but what we've realized is when we get home, we're talking about the situation that happened for a minute, and it's affecting our home life, because in the grand scheme of things, like, my mind, that's on repeat now, and so then I need to talk through it, and so then we're talking back and forth for hours about it, and you're moved on to the next person that you're talking about and doing all those things. And so we are in the beginning stages of setting up boundaries, and it's been really nice. There's going to come a time where it's going to upset the wrong people that we aren't showing up to certain things, and that's okay, because this is between me and my husband and God. And it's denying access to my time and my energy when what you're bringing to the table is draining and bringing me down. It's not that I don't still love you. It's not that I won't be there for you if you need me. But it's understanding that I can't be around certain people who the only thing they do is talk about every single person, talk about the same things over and over again about every single person, who constantly cause drama, constantly have hate, and these are Christians, by the way. So your access to me has changed, and you know, for a long time I've been dragging Nick with me. You know, we have to go, we have to be there, we have to. No, we don't. You know, I didn't want people to think the wrong way about us not showing up to these things. And so there's probably situations in your life you feel the same way. God understands that. He had low points in his life, and he meets you where you are. But he's also asking you, you know, I feel myself praying, Lord, be with me, Lord, lead me, Lord, teach me, Lord, show me. And he's going to do all those things. But sometimes he's saying it's a two-way street. You know, I'm telling you I need you to do this, but you're not listening to me for a long time. So when Nick and I got married, right before we got married, I moved to where we are now, and I got a job. And after about year 3 at that job, I hated every second of it. I was miserable. My depression was in the throes. My anxiety was in the throes. When Nick got the job he has now, actually before that, but I refused to do it, because on paper our bills we didn't get them paid by what we had coming in. Even before he got this job, the Lord was saying, I want you to step away and get prepared. And I didn't really comprehend that, and I wasn't really listening that well. And so then when Nick got the job he has now, I felt it even stronger. Now you don't have an excuse to say, you know, step away and get prepared. And finally I did. but I did my own version of it. So I stepped away from that job, and I worked for a friend of ours who owns a lot of different businesses throughout town, and I would do just little things, you know, taking care of those. And because I needed to have a paycheck attached, I've been working since I was in middle school, sometimes two jobs, and going to school. And I've never not been working that I can recall. I started sports when I was 3, and it was year round, and then went from there, right? And so I remember I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna step away from this position, but I'm gonna do this just part-time, just so I have a paycheck attached, because for me, that was my value. You know, what I brought home was my value. And, you know, society today is that, well, if you don't have a job, you're lazy and you're this and you're that. And I bought into that. And God said, that's not what I asked you to do. So then I stepped away from that. And a couple months later, another job came available that I thought I would really love. It had to do with animals, and I thought, this is it, you know. And so I got the job, and after about 3 months, you know, I should have never went there. But after about 3 months, I knew that I wasn't called to be there. And then I left there after about 7 months, and then still God said, okay, I want you to focus on me. I want you to take time and spend it with me. I want you to get prepared. And I still didn't know what he was calling me to do. So I went back to our friends who have all the businesses, and I worked there part-time for a couple of months. And then finally, it was about 4 months, I guess. And then finally, I left that job and finally listened to God, and he said, now, stop looking for a paycheck and start listening to me. Start studying my word. Dive deep. We're going to get healthy mentally. I want you to dive deep. And I still didn't know the purpose. It was June of 2022 that I was in the floor crying on my hands and knees, begging God to bring me home and asking why. Why has this been going on for 27 years? I don't understand it. You've got to do something. And he said, I want you to help others who are Christians that are dealing with depression and anxiety, and let them see that they're not alone. I know you're not perfect, and that's what I love about it, is because you're real. You have faults, you have things that aren't necessarily great, but if you listen to me, I'm going to help bless some people. I'm going to bless some people through you. I just need you to be the face of it. And that's when I started diving even deeper into the word, and finally realized that this whole time he's probably been calling me to do this, but I haven't heard him. I've heard him, but I had my own version of it, right? You know, I had my own version of what's important. And I had somebody even say on here, well, yeah, but you know, you don't work full time. And while that's true, I don't have a job that pays me full time. I do 2 YouTube channels, and I don't just come on here and start talking. I study this book, and then I come on here and start talking. I have conversations with God about what's going to be best and what can help the situation. So that's one of the things that I do. Several of the other things I do, I'm in charge of all of our bills. I'm in charge of going to the grocery store, cooking the food, running the homestead. We have 17 chickens, 5 goats, we have dogs, we have cats. We have 13 acres that have to be maintained. We have a garden. We have rotational grazing that we do. We have, this house has to be cleaned. You can't have this many fur babies inside and not have a clean house and not keep it clean. Nick and I both have allergies, and so it's imperative to keep it clean. I operate better in cleanliness and the least amount of clutter possible. So the amount of things I do now is more than I did when I was working for a paycheck. And so, yes, I am very blessed and very privileged that my husband has a job that allows me to stay at home. It's allowed me to heal. It's allowed me to have the best year that I could possibly have, the best 14 months. There's a blessing in that, because there's a lot of people that suffer with depression and anxiety, that was me before 3 years ago, that you can't afford to quit your job. Like, you would no longer have a home, or no longer have, you know, clothes, no longer have a bed to sleep in. You would be in a tent if you were lucky to have a tent. You would be homeless at that point. Healthcare has always been an issue, as far as, yes, we had healthcare, but with the $12,000 deductible, we couldn't afford to go to the doctor, and we certainly couldn't afford the medicine that they wanted on top of that. So, you know, I was in that exact same place and struggling in the depths of it. And it came down to either I was going to finally listen to God and take the time off, and He would provide, and believe that, trust that He was going to provide, that I did not have to have a monetary paycheck coming into this family, or I was going to die. Those were the options. And I would like to say that I listened to Him earlier in the story, and that I left my job when He first called me to leave, and then, you know, He provided that extra income for us to get us through until Nick got this other job. But it took me till that to stop. And even after he got that job, I went back, you know, I went back to work for the place for 7 months, and then the part-time. Sometimes it takes me a lot to get through to me, and I had to understand that my value is not on a paycheck. My value is not on, does she have a 9-to-5, right, or a shift job, or just, you know, how much money does she make, or what does she contribute. My contribution to our family is I'm the homemaker, right? Everything that gets washed, cleaned, dried, aired out, everything that gets mowed, everything that gets the garden. Now, Nick does help with these things, right? He helps with the lawn, and he helps with the garden, and he helps with the chickens and goats, but he's gone, obviously, during the day to his 9-to-5-ish. It's not 9-to-5, but he's gone to that. And so what I do now is actually more valuable to our family than it was when I was bringing in a monetary paycheck. Our kids are happier that I'm home. Our fur babies, they enjoy being home. They're all older. I'm available for my dad, for our mom and dad, our in-laws. I'm available for our aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, whoever. I'm available if there's something that's going on and you need a ride to the hospital, you need a ride to the doctor, you need someone to stay overnight. I'm available. Like, it's freed up so much more. But for a long time, the devil had in my head, because it was diverting my walk with God. No, you can't quit. You need a paycheck. You're not important anymore if you don't have a monetary number attached to you. And so I believed that lie for a long time. And then finally, I listened to what God was saying, and I quit trying to add my, well, okay, I'm gonna listen to you, but let me do this, you know, I'm gonna listen to you, but I need, you know, kind of thing. And so understand that, you know, God had low times as well, and he persevered through them with love, grace, and compassion. That's where I strive to be. I strive to be like no person on earth. I strive to be like God. Do I fail? Absolutely, friends, I do. I would love to say that, you know, in this past 14 months, I've made a complete turnaround, and I have. But am I the person that I want to be? Am I as Christ-like as possible? No. Do I still have faults and failures? Yes. Do I still strive every single day to be better? Yes. I'm not going to divert what path God has me on anymore. I feel like God's been in control of my life for years. The entire time I've had depression and anxiety. But I've allowed the devil to have more control in my mind, right? With all of the junk he's put in it, and no more. We're past that. I look at this book and all the things that God has done for us, and I can't comprehend the level of love and compassion that he has for us. And if he's called me to do this one little thing, and that's one little thing I can do to change one person's view of what they're going through, struggling with mental illness, then I'm more than welcome to come on here and let you know my thoughts and my actions and how it relates to depression and mental illness, so and being a Christian. Friends, I end every video this way. It's my hope and prayer that you feel this and that you understand these words. God loves you. I love you. Your family loves you. Your friends love you. And we need you here. We'll see you in the next one, friends. Bye.